We got more DFS picks here on Fantasy Focus through Monkey Night Fight for week 2 of NFL action, and we go to the AFC West as the Kansas City Chiefs make the trip to Southern California to take on the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm here with the entire Fantasy Focus crew. I'm Derek Tate alongside Matt Bucks and Ryan Levy. As we have more DFS picks for you through monkeyknifefight.com. By the way, if you have not yet come across Monkey Night Fight, go to their website, create an account, and when you make your first deposit, use the promo code FOCUS, and they will match your first deposit up to $50. So, boys, we got ourselves an interesting matchup between two 1-0 teams in very different fashions. The Chiefs were dominant in their opening game against the Houston Texans, while the Los Angeles Chargers, it came down to the very final closing moments and a missed field goal to send it to overtime and an overturn or a offensive pass interference that wiped out an A.J. Green go-ahead touchdown. Led Tyrod Taylor to 1-0 under center. Buckey is the resident believer and your boy Tyrod Taylor. So we'll start with the passing matchup between Patrick Mahomes and Tyrod Taylor, more or less at 305.5 for Patrick Mahomes and 224.5 for Tyrod Taylor. Buckey, how do you see this playing out between these two gunslingers?
From what I've seen, being a Bills fan, I have all the respect in the world for playoff quarterback Tyrod Taylor. However, when the lights are shining the brightest, they usually dim out the fastest. Tyrod Taylor is not going to get 225 passing yards in this game, and neither is Pat Mahomes going to get 305.5. I'm going less. Welcome back. It's Less Incorporated, sponsored and owned and founded by Buck.
Yeah, that Chiefs secondary is pretty underrated in my opinion. I think they're going to be given fits all season long. So I am the biggest Tyrod Taylor hater out there probably. So I'm certainly fading him here. They should have lost that game last week. I'm not a believer in the Chargers. So I'm definitely going less on Taylor. Mahomes, I hate to fade a guy like Patty Mahomes or any superstar for that matter, because you just never know. But in this case, I'm expecting another heavy dose of your boy Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he gets 20 plus carries again, and the Chiefs win this game pretty easily. Vegas has them as 8.5-point favorites in this game.
It's a huge line. Huge line.
Yeah, but do we feel confident? I mean, we saw what the Cleveland Browns offense was able to do to this Cincinnati Bengals unit on Thursday Night Football. So it kind of puts in perspective how inefficient and ineffective Tyrod Taylor was in week 1 against a Bengals secondary that got torched and, also got torched on the ground. I mean, the one thing that the Chargers did do well was run the football. We had Eckler, who had a pretty effective day, and also Joshua Kelly, the rookie out of UCLA, also had a very, very, very nice debut. So really, the one thing with Mahomes, though, I'm definitely going less, because if you look at their two matchups from last season, Mahomes didn't top 200 yards passing in either game against the Los Angeles Chargers in 2019. Is Mahomes capable of dropping 306 yardage total on anybody through the air? Of course. But I'm going to go ahead and lean the less. Again, that is a very high number for a team that I expect to be playing with a lead. And we saw a ton of Clyde Edwards-Helaire in week number 1. And I expect more of the same in week number 2 against the Chargers. And I just don't think the Chargers are going to be able to keep pace. The only thing that makes me a little bit uneasy is the less on Tyrod Taylor at 224, because the one thing he is willing to do is push the ball down the field. And I expect that Mike Williams may have a big player too. Hey, look, I was encouraged from what I saw from Mike Williams in week 1, who wasn't even expected to play originally, was expected to be on the shelf, and I thought he looked good. But again, Chiefs are a better football team than the Cincinnati Bengals. I do expect Tyrod Taylor to kind of ho-hum his way to around 200 yards passing, but 224, I don't see it.
Love it.
Less, boys. Less. Buckey Incorporated, you got a catchphrase for that yet?
It's Less Incorporated, brought to you, sponsored by Buckey Wipes, Inc.
Buckey Wipes?
Don't worry about it.
Big things coming.
Where'd that nickname come from? Come on, man. We need more deets.
It was a long morning, Derek.
All right. Well, on that note, we're moving to our favorite slate of picks. It's the more or less 6 for 6. You get 35 times your buy-in if you hit here on monkeyknifefight.com. And We're going with the yardage totals, receptions, rushing yards, etc., not fantasy points, but you can play that if you'd like to. It's a full point PPR format here on monkeyknifefight.com. But we'll start with Patrick Mahomes and Tyrod Taylor. We already went less, so we're going to stay consistent on the 6 for 6 bit. But Travis Kelce, off to a very fast start this past week against the Houston Texans. I think he caught 6 passes, like all in the first half, and then pretty much they took the air out of the football there in Kansas City, or at least it steered away from Travis Kelce as they have a slew of options in this pass attack. How do you see it? Levy, I'll throw it to you for Travis Kelce for 5.5 receptions.
Yeah, for me, I feel comfortable with Travis Kelce catching 6 balls every single week, regardless of game script. I just truly believe in that. So I think this line is set pretty nicely here, 5.5. So I'm going to smash the more anytime it's set on Kelce at 5.5, honestly. I know they have a lot of weapons, but he's the number one guy, in my opinion, for Patty Mahomes.
Yep, I'm going to go more here as well.
Okay, we'll make it easy. It's not, even though I don't expect Mahomes to have a huge yardage total, I still expect him to be very efficient and effective. And Kelce is going to be a big part of that passing attack, and 5.5 is very doable. Which brings us to, speaking of very doable, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a monster debut on the ground, over 100 yards rushing, scored a tutty on the ground. The only part of his game that was ineffective was goal-to-go carry situations, but Helaire, 74.5 rushing yards, more or less. Levy, I'll throw it over to you for this one.
Easy for me. It's more, dog.
That's going to be a more for me, dog.
Let's go more on that 74.5 yardage total on the ground for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Oddly enough, he wasn't involved in the passing game, but he was the clear primary ball carrier for this Chiefs offense. And whenever you have that, I'm all for it. In fact, I think he saw 10 carries where there was 6 or fewer defenders in the box. That's just unheard of. And I expect to see more of the same, rushing into soft fronts with all these options. And speaking of weapons on the outside, Tyreek Hill, 75.5 receiving yards. Buckey, if we're picking less on Patrick Mahomes at 305 passing yards, how do you see it playing out for Tyreek Hill?
Less. 60 yards, 4 receptions.
This is tough for me because, again, when you got a superstar, it's hard to fade him, right? Because he could literally catch an 80-yard pass and you're screwed, right? I want to lean with Buck here, but I'm on the fence. So I'm going to let you sell me, Derek, either way.
The only reason I'm going to go less on this, I mean, Tyreek Hill is already a very volatile option as it is on a week-to-week basis. But the one thing that the Chargers do have, as far as on the defensive side of the football, are very talented man-to-man cover corners. Not to say that they can't be had. Casey Hayward has had his moments where he's, been beaten on the defensive side of the football. In fact, I thought he had a kind of a rough debut against AJ Green and the rest of the Cincinnati pass catchers in week 1. He did all right, but I expected a little bit more from Casey Hayward. But, they also have Chris Harris Jr., who is, one of the better slot veteran corners in the National Football League. For that reason, there are some very talented man-to-man cover corners on the Chargers roster. So I'll take the less on the 75.5 yards.
All right, I'm on board.
Cool. And then, Bucky, this one's always tough. A talented receiver with a quarterback that kind of drives me nuts. Keenan Allen, 59.5 receiving yards. You got more or less on Keenan Allen?
Had to sneeze there. I'm going to go more. I think he ends up with 70, 75, 80.
Yeah, I'm a Keenan Allen believer. I know his week 1 performance was not very inspiring. He had 8 targets. I expect Chargers to be playing from behind in this game. I think we're going to see like a 10 catch, 85 yards for Keenan Allen.
10 catches?
Heavy dose.
I don't know about 10 catches there.
I mean, how about 10 completions? We'll start there with Tyrod Taylor and I'll be happy. But, much less 10 receptions from Keenan Allen.
It's coming.
Look, if they're going to be playing from behind, though, I mean, last week they were playing with, it was a nip and tuck game. They were playing from behind for a little bit because the Bengals and Joe Burrow scored a rushing touchdown of all things against this defense. But when it comes to Keenan Allen, I believe in the talent still. I think he has a bounce back week. even though Mike Williams I expect to be very involved, Hunter Henry to be very involved. And I don't think it's going to be a high passing yardage total. That's really where I want to lean less, is that we're going less on 224 yards, boys. So we're saying if he throws for 200 that, Allen is going to account for that much of the yardage percentage where he's more of a possession receiver. I want to lean less, but I'll go with the more if you guys believe Allen has a bounce back week in week 2.
I do believe
Bounce
it.
back.
All right.
Can we answer Alligator Feed 11's question here? Because it is a trade question, not a start sit question.
Yes, I didn't even see it. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. So Alligator Feed 11, thanks for joining us live. Should I trade Connor and Woods for Raheem Mostert? I kind of like Bob Woods for the rest of the season. I know it was a great debut for Raheem Mostert, but I mean, there is a part of me that wants to get what I can get for James Conner right now, because I am not 100% confident that he's even going to be the starting running back. I'm interested to see if. Do you guys wonder if he was actually even injured and, potentially that he was just benched by that unit?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he came back so quickly, I'm still playing Benny Snell this week in wherever I have him, because I think he's going to get a heavy dose this week. I guess it's tough to answer this question in a vacuum because we don't know what the rest of your receivers look like, right? I'm with Tate. I love Bob Woods. He just got paid. Him and Cup both got paid, and they're going to be there for a long time. I love Mostert. I guess in a vacuum, I'd say yes, but it depends. Like, is Bob Woods your wide receiver 3? If he's your wide receiver 2, I'm not doing it.
I'm personally going to roll with Connor for one more week. I know that you want to cash out and potentially get what you can for him right now. He has Hill and Adams as his other receivers. So then, Woods is expendable. So then in that case, and if you need running back help, you feel that Mostert is a significant upgrade to Connor, then roster construction, man, that's always how it is when it comes to these trades, like what your team needs and where you have depth and where you don't.
Bucky, real quick, you got a football question in the comments there.
Oh, in your opinion, which is the best football player in the world? Leo Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, Mbappe. It's a great spelling for Mbappe. It's incorrect. Luis Suarez and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Bringing Zlatan into the conversation is absurd. Luis Suarez as well at this point. Personally, I'm a Ronaldo guy. I love Cristiano Ronaldo. I think he's phenomenal. But the best player in the world plays for Spurs. His name is Harry Kane.
Love it, Buck.
That'll do it for this episode of monkeyknifefight.com, or not monkeyknifefight.com. Of course, we're making our DFS picks through Monkey Knife Fight here on Fantasy Focus. If this is your first time coming across our YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss any of our fantasy football content heading into the 2020 NFL season. Also, again, if you haven't visited Monkey Knife Fight, go ahead, create an account, and just remember to use the promo code FOCUS when you make your first deposit. Monkey Knife Fight will match it up to $50. So until next time, good luck and later, says the Tater.
See ya.